Okay, this is the second part of this tutorial that we create our component. So what we're gonna do here is like we're going to replicate this component. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I need to generate some points so I can start replicating. So let's go to the top view and let's place 3 points. Why? Yeah, sorry about that. Let's create point 1 point there, 1.2, 0.3. So I'm gonna edit this, and now I'm gonna also show how can we add replication to these points using a function that I really like that is called cosine and sine. So in X translation, we're gonna just use this value. We're not gonna change this one, and we're gonna change the Y translation. We're gonna go that direction. So let's type this. Let's create a series of points between 0 and 270, and let's create 10 points every 10 units. Sorry, and let's hit OK. And in C translation, I'm gonna use the sine function. We're gonna recreate a curve using the sine function. It's a very beautiful curve, a very easy way to add some variations to the replication of the points. So let's type sine, open parentheses, series of points between 0 and 270 every 10 units. But something important here is I'm going to multiply this just for a random number for 30 so I can really see it, because if not, we're not gonna be able to see how the curve is changing. So let's hit OK and let's hit apply. So now if I go to a 3D view, we can see that this point is following the sine function. Maybe it was too wild, the dimensions in C, so let's just change 30 for 20. Yeah, that works better. And we're gonna do the same thing with the next point. So let's go to edit, point 15. The Y translation, we're gonna change it. We're gonna use again the function series between 0 and 270 every 10 units, and we're gonna hit OK. And in Z translation, I'm gonna use now cosine, and so we can have like differentiation. So let's open parentheses and let's type series between 0 and 270 every 10 points. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to multiply it for 20 units just to make it look bigger. So let's hit OK and let's hit apply. So now I have that curve and that other curve. And last thing that I'm going to do is let's edit the last point. Is X translation. It's going to be the same one, and in Y we're going to move it. We're going to change it into series between 0 and 270 every 10 units. Let's hit OK, and in Z I'm going to use, in this one I'm going to use sine. I'm going to create the same thing that I did with the first curve. So let's type sine series between 0 to 70 and every 10 units. Multiply for 20. Okay, and let's hit apply. So now we have our 3 points. So now before to move on, I just want to move a little bit, separate a little bit these points. You can still move in these points in X direction. They were very close. Yeah, something like this. Great. Now let's save this transaction and let's create a B-spline curve. So we're going to use a B-spline curve by points. And the points, since it's a replication, we're going to use point 14. This is the same one. This is the first one, sorry. And we're going to hit OK. Now let's create a copy. And let's change to the next point, which is a 15. And last thing, let's create a copy and let's use point 16. That's it. So now we have our three curves. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the points that I used to create the curves. And the reason why is that I'm going to add another points to the lines that are the ones that we're going to use for replication of this component that we created. So let's go to the top view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a point, attach it to each curve. So for doing that, I just have to hit Control and get closer to one of the curves. And just hit Enter, and there's my first point. To do it again in the second one, I have to select the point tool, hit Control, get closer, and hit Enter. Cancel, and let's do it again in the last one. Okay. So now this point, if we're gonna edit the first one, we can see that this point has a t-value. What it means, t-value, is that parametrically the t-value is the position that this point has in this curve, and it's going to be between 0, that is the start point of the curve, and 1 is the end point. So that's what it means of t-value. So, but I want to create one variable so I can control how many points I have over this line. So let's create it first. Let's go to graph variables. Let's hit add, and we're gonna call it number of points equals. We're gonna add a number. Let's create 25 and hit OK. And we're going to click this option. We want to have a minimum of 2 points. The maximum, I just want to create 25, and I want to go every 1 unit. So now I have a slider here that I can move, and this variable is going to control how many points I have along the curves. So let's edit this point. And the t-value, we're going to change it. And we're going to use a function called series by count. If you don't know how to type it, you just have to go here and find the function series by count and go insert. So now it's ask GC created for us, and we have to say where we're gonna start, when we're gonna finish, and the count, it means how many units, is how many things we want to create. So we're going to start in 0, which is the first point of this curve. We're gonna finish in 1, which is the last point of the curve, and we're gonna use the variable that we just created, that was number of points. I'm gonna hit OK, and we're gonna hit apply. So now we have, if we go to the variable, and if we move this slider, we can have more points or less points. So we're gonna do the same with the other 2 points. So let's go edit, select the second point, and we're gonna use the same series by count between 0 and 1, and we're gonna use number of points is the name of our variable. And I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna hit OK, apply, and I'm going to edit the last point. And here in the t-value, I can just delete this and paste it. Hit OK, and I have all my points in the 3 lines. So now let's populate this. Let's create the array of the component that we created. So let's go to transaction, save the transaction. Let's go to create new feature. Let's go to the bottom. Let's go to the ZZLC tutorial, that is the guide that we create, and let's create it by default. So here's going to ask us for which is the coordinate system that we're going to use, which is in this case the same, is base ES. The LawCurve is going to be the same one that we created, so it's going to be LawCurve of 1. The first point, I'm going to start using this one, is point 17. So if I select this one, I have to delete the index. So I can have a variation of the points. I can go every time. The first component is going to place it here, the second here, the second here. So the first point is going to be here every time. If I hit OK. The second point, 0.02, is going to be this one, is the point 18. I have to do the same. I have to delete the index and hit OK. Now the third point, which is this one, I want to use the point 18, but I want to use the next one. So for this one, I have to use a function called sublist. That is, it's going to ask me for the object, which is point 18, and I want to start in the first one. So 1, not in the 0 point, in the next one. So if I hit OK, and I hit OK, I can see that GC replicate that component, right? So the first point is point 1 was created in each position of these points of point 17. The second point was created in the first point and then to the second, and so on. And the third point, it used the second point of our point 18. So now if we go to the top view, let's create another one in this direction using the second array of the points. So we can just do it by creating a copy. The base is the same, the LawCurve is the same. The 0.01, now we're gonna use 0.19, so we have to change 0.17 for 0.19, and these are 2 points are gonna be the same. The second point is gonna be this one, and the third point I'm gonna use the same, the sublist function, to start in the 0.19 1 and then go to the next one, and so on. So I'm gonna hit OK and GC create my components. So if we wanted to add another 2 components. Let's save these transactions and let's go to the top view. If we want to add another 2 here, we have to go to new feature, select again our CC, our component that we created, and let's do it by default. So we have to, it's going to ask us like which one is the base ES, the coordinate system. So remember we're using the basic one, but in base ES. The LawCurve is the same, LawCurve 1. Now the 0.01, I want to use this position, which is the first position, is the second point of the 0.18. So I have to write here sublist 0.18 1, and let's hit OK. And 0.02, I want to use this position, it's the 0.17. And for the third point, I'm going to use the 0.17, the second point. So I have to use the sublist option function, sorry. So I have to type sublist for 0.17, and let's start in the first. We hit OK, and let's hit OK. So now we have our component there. And let's do the same to fill this space here. So let's create a copy. 0.1, which was this one, it's going to be the same one. I'm going to start my component in the 0.18 in the position, in the first position. So it's going to be the same value. What it's going to change is going to be the 0.02 and 0.03. Instead of being this 0.17, I'm going to use these points, which is a 0.19. So I just have to change 17 for 19 and do the same here in the sublist. Let's delete 0.17 for 19, hit OK, and say OK. So now we have completed our array using sublist function. And now let's play a little bit with this guy. So if we go to the variable and if we change the value of the graph, I don't recommend to use the slider because it requires a lot of memory. So let's just change this one directly from 13 to, let's say, 5 and hit enter. GC, we change it the amount of points in the lines, and GC automatically transform everything there. So we have less component and less points. And now let's change the view. Let's go to the style to smooth monochrome with shadows. We can see our component. And if we move the LawCurve, the points in the LawCurve, we're gonna see that it's automatically generating the changes in the components. Right. So let's change this one. So all of them automatically were transformed and were updated if we move something here. So this is one way to add more variation to one single component that we doing inside GC. It's one technique, and let's just go again to the GC default, and let's change this variable so we can have more points. Let's go back to 15. So this is one technique. I hope you guys like it and it was helpful in one way. And if you want to learn more to continue playing more inside GC, please go to the next tutorial. And remember, I'm going to say that if you have suggestions, please go to the forum. If you have some questions, please go to the forum and post them, and we can. And I'm gonna try to answer them. If I don't do it, all the members from the GC team, we can answer questions and help you to continue working with generative components. So thank you very much.